All agents are currently assisting other suspects. Please stay on the line and your call will be answered shortly.
I faced the creature the Metrones called a Gorn. Large, reptilian, like most humans, I seem to have an instinctive revulsion to reptiles.
Captain, I see something!
Construct a weapon. Look around you. Can you perform some sort of rudimentary lathe?
His name is Slar. He's a Gorn.
Today's Nerd Fights was brought to you by the Korogan Public Swimming Pool System. Come swim with us. You'll never swim with anyone else again. because he'll be dead. And also by these guys, because I guess for some reason they want to support Salty, those sons of...
Computer and program?
Oh man, I can't stop chuckling at that. So Danny will be along in about 10 minutes according to his last text. Which
Yeah, he sent me the same one. So
yes, which means probably about a half an hour.
Well, he's with a client, so you know.
Yeah. Well, we got to go by Danny time. I'm just saying.
He likes money.
Yeah. I like money.
Yeah, I like money too. So
money is good.
Yeah.
So welcome everybody. Today we're going to just talk about the Gorn, the whole bang, because this last weekend we because obviously on Strange New Worlds over the we watched the last episode featuring the Gorn just last week, but then this last weekend Danny, Jason, and I all sat down and watched Arena and In a Mirror Darkly so we could watch all the prior Gorn stuff. So we're now complete experts on the Gorn. As far as all canonical appearances of the Gorn, we have seen them.
that have actually any content to them. Because just in case someone shows up and has a fit about the animated series, a wallflower picture of a Gorn does not count as content that matters.
Yes. And so, Stanley, to answer your questions, first of all, yes, according to Tricorders, Gorn are cold-blooded. That is established in Arena. Spock actually says right off the bat that when he picks up the life forms that they are not warm-blooded. As far as reptiles or amphibians, Kirk describes the Gorn, and it's actually in the video I just played. Kirk describes the Gorn as large and reptilian. So I would assume that they are reptiles. Which brings up, and I do want to, just right off the top, I want to bring up something in some of my recent research, which is forgetting about the weird sci-fi-y stuff for a second. Gorn vision is and forget about the varying visual effects for it. I know, it kind of looks like Predator in Strange New Worlds, and it just looks like fuzzy camera in Enterprise, but they do have Gorn vision in Enterprise as well. But Gorn vision would be a real thing. Reptiles commonly, particularly reptiles with vertical slit eyes, which the Gorn do have. In every instance except for Arena, the Gorn have vertically slit eyes, which gives them very good depth of field. That's very good for hunters. And reptiles and amphibians that are more prey animals actually have the horizontal slit eyes. But the depth of field, which gives them a wider vision so that they can see people all around them. But the vertical gives them extreme depth of field, so it's very good for precision strikes. But they also have, like humans and other mammals, have 3 photoreceptors. Think of them RGB. Whereas reptiles have up to 5, which allows them to see both infrared and ultraviolet. So the Gorn vision is absolutely a real thing. I have zero issue with it whatsoever. It's not so much a rip off of Predator, except maybe the style of it, but the functionality of it is absolutely based on nature.
Well, it's interestingly enough, it's way more accurate to portray that than the way they portrayed things like secretly deorbiting the dish in a way that it looks natural.
Right. Yeah.
So, So if people want to start, believe me,
you want to get into orbital physics, sure.
Yeah. If Ariel wants to see me go all like pear-shaped again, anyone who wants to start making a fuss about something that might mimic some other property, even in the face of it actually being scientifically accurate, when the simple fact is that everyone loves to have a fit whenever something Kurtzman or Akiva Goldsman is clearly unscientific. No. You got to check your double standards at the door, people.
Yeah. Because the Gorn vision, no problem whatsoever. The Gorn preferring the warmth absolutely makes sense. And by the way, so let me answer a couple of things that are in the chat, because Stan Lee says seemed like a hot desert. No, it did not. If you pay attention, Kirk is wearing thermal underwear under his uniform. It was cold out there. Just because it's arid doesn't mean it's hot.
Yes, because technically desert means absence of water, not hot.
And deserts, because they this is actually something weird that I experienced moving to Tennessee, and I mentioned this as a response to somebody in the video that I posted today. That's just the earlier video I showed, which is that when growing up on the West Coast, the air is very, very dry.
Mediterranean.
Yeah. And part of that, it's just because it does not rain during the summer. And so the ground dries up, everything dries up. And so it's just a very, very dry environment. So what happens is during the summer, it might get up to 110 degrees during the day, but then at night, it is downright chilly. So like if you're backpacking in the mountains, which is something I did every summer, you do need to bring heavy duty sleeping bags, coats, stuff like that, because if you're going to go anywhere at night, it is going to be cold, even though it's really hot during the day. That's just what I grew up used to. However, then I moved to Tennessee, where it is very humid. It's almost tropical here. And that's because it rains during the summer. And so as it rains, water is absorbed into the ground, then the sun beats down, that water evaporates, and that water vapor in the air retains the heat from the day, so that at night, like sometimes, like if it's 90, it doesn't get as hot. So it might be 95 degrees during the day, but then it'll only drop to like 90 degrees at night. And I'm like, why is it so hot in the middle of the night? And it took me a while to realize, because of all the water in the air.
Yep.
And so, but the desert is extreme. So in the desert, if you've ever been to like places like Death Valley, which I don't ever recommend going to Death Valley. It's called that for a reason. But yeah, Death Valley is where the hottest temperature ever was recorded, by the way, like 130
on Earth.
Yeah. But you ever go to Death Valley during the day, it's extremely hot, but then during the night, it's very cold. Now, where Kirk was, Kirk actually said that he was on an asteroid. So we don't know the actual distance to the star. I would guess, and this is just a guess. Now, the Metrons seemed like they wanted things to be a fair fight. So what do? They put it in an environment where Kirk has at least enough of a temperature advantage to where the Gorn is going to move slow.
Well, and I was you were headed right to where I was thinking, which is the slowness of the Gorn in Arena could easily and acceptably be understood to be caused by the drop in temperature.
Right. And if the Gorn, and the Metrons are like, well, geez, this Gorn could literally, and especially if this Gorn is just like, I know it's just a guy in a rubber suit, but he's representative of what we saw in Strange New Worlds. He's a lizard monster, basically. So he could literally rip Kirk in half. I mean, we saw him pick up a rock that had to weigh at least a ton.
Yeah.
Right. And so the Gorn could, if he got his hands on Kirk, just rip his arms right out of the sockets with very little difficulty. And so the Metrons would know this. And so when the only way to give Kirk a fighting chance would be to put them in an environment where Kirk could run circles around the Gorn. However, Kirk is so physically weak that Kirk's only chance is to try and construct some kind of weapon like a rudimentary lathe to battle the Gorn.
I saw
did
your
you see?
inclusion of that from Galaxy.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Commercial. Yeah.
How you
I was
doing,
just
Danny?
about to ask.
Hi, by the way. I'm doing.
Still pimping podcast guys, I see.
No,
Or salty nerds, I'm sorry.
sorry.
Well, that's okay. They're partial inspiration for some of the things I had to say today.
Yes.
Yeah.
We haven't really gotten into the episodes or anything. We're just talking about the general physiology of the Gorn.
Yeah, if anything, like I said in our watch along, which again, if you go to supportsalty.com, you can join the Patreon and check those out.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, side note, quick production note. The new domain name is actually updated in DNS.
I saw that. It's propagated. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we are actually working on an official Nerd Fights website, everybody, for all your Nerd Fights needs. So it will have links to the shows. It'll have eventually the merch designed by our wonderful merch team, namely Danny.
Yeah.
You know, so and we should probably put a place for people that want to request things or whatever. But yeah, so we're actually working on trying to make this a semi-professional operation.
Yeah,
semi-professional.
But in rewatching Arena with you guys,
which by the way is a great episode of TOS.
Yeah, not that I want to defend Strange New Worlds any, but there's really nothing there that negates canon or whatever, you know what I mean? No. It all lines up. And even with I think I might have heard you say this when I was first signing on, but even with the Enterprise episodes we watched, the Predator vision, if you will, like they did that in that episode. So it's not like,
they just did it in a more primitive way because the camera work and visual effects and stuff just weren't at the same level.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, Stop George asks, how can the Gorn possibly be warp-capable species with the way they're presented in Strange New Worlds? How could they, look, dude, first of all, in the original series, the Gorn is literally wearing a Fred Flintstone shirt. So, but my answer is...
Wearing the same outfit in Enterprise, by the way, too.
Yeah. Listen to what Kirk says when he first sees the Gorn. I really, really love that line. And that's kind of the whole point of this, of Arena, is he says he has to fight to remember that this is an intelligent species, that this is a starship commander, undoubtedly very clever and smart, just like myself. So Kirk actually is thinking the same kind of thing. Like, he looks like a big growling, hissing monster. But the truth is, the Gorn are a sophisticated, intelligent, sentient species. And in Strange New Worlds, Pike hasn't learned that lesson yet. Because Pike, the Gorn are just man-eating monsters.
One of the funny things is, as consumers of the show, of the franchise, frankly, if anybody doesn't like the entire Delphic Expanse story arc, then they're open to dislike the idea of the Gorn in any iteration being mocked for being able to be in space. But if you at all like insectoids and aquatics being able to be in space, well, then you can't have a problem with the Gorn. You just can't, because it's a lack of consistency.
Yeah, the Gorn,
and again,
they're humanoid, actually. So
yeah, and was I lit? I was lit, but you know what I was lit at? The writing, not the Gorn, but the writing of the Gorn. I didn't like the fact that they were doing things in that last episode of Strange New Worlds that I felt painted the Gorn as idiots.
Well, like I said, I agree with you on the saucer thing.
Yeah, how can you not see that moving and be like, maybe we should shoot that?
You're right. Yeah, I understand the Gorn mostly see by light, but and I know they were saying, well, any piece of debris that appears to just be orbiting into the planet, they're going to ignore. That's not a piece of debris. That is the entire saucer section, of a starship.
Well, and even the idea of trying to say, well, they only react to light. Well, is it pitch black in orbit? Were they on the far side from the sun? Because pretty sure if the sun's shining on a giant gray thing that starts, moving around,
right,
light is reflecting off of it.
Well, I mean, they did kind of try to explain it with Pelia saying that, the point of the rockets was to make it look like it was in a decaying orbit. But it still
unfortunately, the way they portrayed it in the show was like decaying orbit equals straight down.
Yeah.
So what could have been, what I think would have been kind of cool is if the Gorn kind of figured out what was going on and started shooting at the saucer as it was going down.
Yes,
that I think would have made more sense.
It would have forgave them for
idiot.
It would have forgave them for anything else where the Gorn were made to look a little dumb, like the highly protestable idea of having a line through a solar system in a way that it's like a booby trap thing that only ever works once.
But at least, I mean, I know we talked about this.
I know.
But at least
he
there
tried.
was a concept. They didn't explain it, but there was a concept. I don't know if Danny's heard about that. So, do you remember the line drawn through the solar system that we were all laughing at? There was actually an official explanation, which is that what the Gorn do is they set their borders in the middle of a solar system so that while the planet is outside of their space, people will land on it. And then when it comes back into their space, now they say, oh, that's our planet. And they use all the people as meat sacks. And so, I get that, but it's like a fly trap, basically. The only problem is like, and against an intelligent species, it should only work once.
Well, and really anybody that's capable of flying in space isn't going to be other than the Packlids.
Yeah. Another Enterprise.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Darren, to your comment, I think they spent all the money on that scene because I don't know, backlot setting for the city was pretty lackluster.
Well, first of all, yeah, I agree with Darren. I think that was a cool fight scene. Mm-hmm. Doing it in 0G was actually kind of interesting. And the way they took out the Gorn was cool. It was obvious that Spock was overpowered by the sheer strength of the Gorn. But as far as the colony, hey, come on, how many times in TOS did we see, or TNG, did we see colonies that were just backlot sets?
Well, and you see, my complaint was basically not that there was an issue with that. It's the fact that they actively lampshaded it.
Right. I didn't like that either, because they didn't need to lampshade it before. They would just say, oh yeah, we're at this colony. The end. Yeah. They wouldn't have to say, and they purposely made their colony look like whatever the set is.
Yeah. So, those little embellishments that we all talked about noticing that make it look like it's a little bit more advanced. Yeah. That's sufficient. You throw those in, and then magically it's a different place.
Right. And they did that. That's where it's funny, because the writers of the show will leave out little bits of dialogue where it could be very helpful, and they add in little bits of dialogue where it can really hurt.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to the fact that these people cut their teeth in writing sitcoms, not science fiction.
Yeah.
And so they really don't know what they're doing here as far as writing actual science fiction. And I after the strike, I hope that we get a whole new team of writers, preferably a team of actual science fiction writers. Here today, Gorn tomorrow. Oh, that was horrible.
Although that actually does kind of work if you're gonna lean into the whole idea of it being some kind of a booby trap setup.
Yes.
You know, you came here today and then you're Gorn tomorrow.
Yeah, we should have called the live stream that, actually, now that but yeah, oh well. So looking at the original series Arena, which of all the Gorn episodes so far, I still think Arena is probably the best. And it's not because I have such an affinity for the original series. It's because Arena has more of a complete tale to it, because it's got the whole cautionary thing about judging, basically judging someone just because they're ugly means they're evil, kind of thing. And jumping to conclusions as far as what happened in Cestus 3.
It's funny you should mention the tale, because I was glaringly missing from both the Enterprise and the original series.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's like some lizards where their tail can drop off under the right circumstances.
Right.
Yeah.
Both times they were both panicked, and then
they both happened to have dropped tail just before we saw them.
Yeah. There's some headcanon for you.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's more likely that, or more easily explained, that there's just different, races of Gorn or whatever,
Well, it's interesting to see if they even try to. I mean, honestly, think about this. Until Trials and Tribulations, it was always just assumed that Klingons just always had bumpy foreheads.
Right.
And we just didn't see it in the original series. Right.
And the other thing of it is do we really need them to address it?
Right.
Like let's just say, like, for a thought experiment. So Strange New Worlds goes into its third season, and they actually wake up and fix the issues that they were having. Stop being morons. And
to dream.
So that part manages to happen. Do we really want them to stop and fall back on their bad ways? Like, if we're complaining about the unnecessary telling instead of showing, the lampshading of things like, oh, well, we ran out of money, so we're on the back lot today. The last thing I want these people doing is trying to,
or maybe some easy is in a future episode they show us an adult Gorn without a tail.
Yeah, show don't tell. Yeah. But yeah, I don't want them to try to narrate something, because if they keep the same writing crew onto the next season, because yes, they were on the verge of producing the next season before the strike happened, but that doesn't mean that they can't stop and take account of what the fandom is saying in general over this past season.
You realize over all of the Strange New Worlds episodes we've gotten so far, it still doesn't even equal one season of any of the other Star Trek shows.
No,
it's ridiculous.
Not true. It does equole a season of Discovery.
Okay, I don't care.
Come on, you just said any other Star Trek series.
Pre-2009 Star Trek.
Yeah. I'm just trying.
Yeah. Just trying to keep it precise. There we go.
Here's something I wanted to ask you guys. They didn't really explain in the episode. Who sent the message pretending to be
the Gorn? The Gorn did. They did talk about that. And
they did.
Yeah. And that's actually part of why, why Kirk had to say, I have to remember this is an intelligent, clever being. Remember, the Gorn actually, and let me fast forward to there. So there you go. There, SS3 is blown up. This guy.
Mm-hmm.
He explains to them that the Gorn ship came in space normal speed, their usual approach lanes.
Mm-hmm.
That everything seemed normal, and then all of a sudden, bam, they hit them. And so
Yeah.
the Gorn use deception tactics even back here.
So I guess they have really good voice AI like you do, you know.
Well, they have a universal translator, you know.
Or they forced some poor sucker to have to say it.
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But think about it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be, you know, like if the universal translator should, you know, make it so that you would just hear a human voice, right? That's how it works. And if you, you know, but this guy was explaining the clever tactics of the Borg, and if the and then when we see the Borg in Strange New Worlds, same kind of thing. They use deception. Like basically, their whole thing is they're magicians. Their whole thing is about, hey, look over here, while they hit you from the other side. You know.
And Anthony, I'm pretty sure this was the only survivor.
Well, this is. Did I say Borg? I'm sorry. Thank you, Darren. If I said Borg, I apologize. But the but yeah, the. So I think this is another thing that actually shows the consistency of it. As far as what Anthony says, this guy's not necessarily the only survivor. Remember, when they leave Cestus 3, Kirk orders 30 medical people to beam down and search for survivors. So we don't know how many.
We don't really know, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing we know is that this guy was the first survivor they found. Not only that, but we find that, you know, their tactics are similar. They just hammer down with some kind of horrible weapon that is, and even when people offer to surrender, the Gorn won't take it.
I think in Martin, I think we saw an assimilated Gorn in Picard season 1, didn't we? Or 2? 1 or 2?
Did we?
Did we?
I don't remember seeing an assimilated
when
Gorn.
they were on the one with the. I've tried to delete them from my mind, but the one with Hugh, and they were on the Borg cube. I could have swore there was some kind of reptilian Borg on there. I don't know if it was a Gorn or not, but was that season 1 or 2 with Hugh?
Season
with
1.
Hugh, that would be
season 1.
Season 1.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm just doing a quick image search, and there's nothing that jumps out.
No.
So, but I mean, it's been a bit since I watched season 1.
Yeah.
But
So Thomas sent me some pictures of some stuff that you can order, and they're now selling badgy Christmas ornaments. Man, I want those. I love badgy. And so, Darren says there was a reimagined M113 creature in the same scene. I don't remember that either. And yeah, it is true that Lorca had a Gorn skeleton that did look just like the TOS Gorn. And so that could suggest, assuming now, and the interesting thing though is that and this is a question I would pose to you guys: is Strange New Worlds in the same timeline as Discovery?
Well, it has to be, doesn't it? Because that's what introduced the show.
Not necessarily. I mean, just because. Well, I mean, there are certain events that happen in both timelines, sure, but let me ask you this: have we seen any starship that looks even remotely like a starship from Discovery in Strange New Worlds?
yes, season 2, episode 1. That was a crossfield configured into a Reliant style.
But it did not have crossfield nacelles.
No, but it sure as all get out had crossfield saucer.
And they called it a crossfield class, but it didn't look like the crossfield that we saw in Discovery.
Sure. So if we actually use that level of particularity, then not only
the biggest difference is the nacelles.
Yes,
And-
but I'm leaning into this in the direction you're kind of taking this,
Yeah.
in that, yes, for sure, if we go to that level of particularness, then yeah, there are no Discovery era ships, or Discovery timeline, if we will, ships that we've seen yet, other than the Enterprise itself.
Right.
And it does make you wonder that if there's not some, and hopefully again they show and don't tell,
Yeah, like,
that there isn't some cute way that they can get themselves out of this weird hole they've dug themselves into. And as I like to call it, the Toronto timeline dominates all.
right. And Darren points out that Mitchell was guessing it was a Crossfield class. It wasn't actually confirmed. And that was probably because it was a homemade ship, so it didn't look exactly like a Crossfield.
Yeah.
Um,
But you can, if you go back and you look at the stills, the
general
assets,
configuration.
the assets used, it was actually the Crossfield dish. Whether the proportions are right or not, don't know. And we know that proportionality has been a problem for a little while with this crew. So,
and Twinkle TC, Darren is very knowledgeable about Star Trek, and he's usually on the show on Fridays. So you should, and we love to argue about stuff. So yes, I know Darren is a jerk, but he's still very smart.
he's a very nice jerk.
Yeah. Brain's trying to mind. Darren's a jerk. I know, but he's a nice jerk. He's our jerk. But the and so I hope that that's just kind of a subtle nod to, yeah, we screwed up with Discovery. Yeah, so because otherwise, why we would see a bunch of ships that should look like that four nacelled ship, which I actually thought was kind of smart looking. That little tiny four nacelled starship. It was the same class that Lorca commanded.
Oh yeah.
I like that one. I liked the Shinzo. I thought it was a cool looking ship. The
thing I actually liked about the
funny,
Shinzo the most was the fact that they were willing to do it upside down. Like,
yeah, the bridge was on the bottom of the saucer
Yeah.
instead of the top. I thought that was really interesting, the way like we would be standing on a window that was tilted that way.
yeah, and I mean, come on, if we're in a world where they're willing to make the was it Oberon? No, the Oberth class.
Yeah.
Then yeah, come on. Yeah.
But it's kind of ironic that on Discovery, the worst looking ship was Discovery.
Ugh.
Right.
As far as the Starfleet ships.
Now, the funny thing for me with that ship, just as a side note, the dumbest part was just simply the fact that the sections of the saucer spun.
Yeah.
That was, I actually found to be more dumb than anything else.
Yeah, it did seem kind of dumb. And Twinkle wants to know where your glasses are, Danny.
I took them off because we talked about this presbyopia thing, remember?
Yeah, this is the whole bifocals fun.
Yeah. Still getting used to them.
It looks weird seeing you without them.
Mm.
Yeah. So yeah, Soul Survivor explains that the Gorn
They didn't break. They're right here. Yeah.
So this, that long distance shot is the only thing we ever see of the Gorn ship. So it could look like just about anything, which is fine because in the original cut we never saw the Gorn ship. So they just put that there so there was something out there. So let's talk about the Metrons.
Well, actually, I got to jump right to the controversial take that I came up with before we started the show. The Metrons are dumb. Well,
They're clearly not omniscient.
No. Well, think about this one for a second. So this is how I put it to Mike. I said, so we all agree in Space Seed, Khan spent a bunch of time, read everything on board the Enterprise databanks. I hate that term. And
the library files.
yeah, and all that jazz. So they've got basically a copy of everything Starfleet knows jammed up inside the Enterprise. Both episodes are from season 1. So if the Metrons scanned the ships fully and read all this amazing information, but yet came to the conclusion that, humanity, who, according to canon at that point, started the Federation, a peaceful collection of worlds, hell-bent on doing nothing but spreading democracy and self-sufficiency, hasn't matured enough? Did they forget to read a file?
Well, and my problem here is that, like, the Metrons, so they're obviously very smart. We know that they, like, in the dialogue, they state that their scans show that humans and Gorn violent tendencies are inherent, and so they're going to put a stop to it, right? And that's why they come up with this whole battle to the death thing. But
this is that client I was with a couple hours. I'll be back as quick as I can. Keep going on.
Okay.
Sure.
So here's my question. Right here, when they're talking directly to Kirk, so it's two-way communication, and they can also obviously be talking to the Gorn captain. Why don't they just say, "Did you know that you built your outpost in Gorn territory, and the Gorn were just trying to defend themselves?" And Kirk would have been, whoa, really?
Yeah.
And they never would have fought.
Yeah.
Kirk, and one thing I do like about Kirk is, despite the fact that of all the Starfleet captains, he's the one with a reputation of being a man of action, he's also the first person to put his weapons down if there's an opportunity for peace. And if the Metrons had simply told him that, "Hey, did you realize what you guys did?" he would have said, "Holy crap, we need to get some diplomats out here and apologize to the Gorn homogeny," or however you say it.
Hegemony.
And so, because we didn't mean to do that.
Now I'm gonna just call them the Gorn Hermione.
Hermione. The Gorn Hermione. Homogeny. I don't know where I got that.
That's okay. We were having an awful laugh at both of our own selves, and we were trying to say romanticization. I did look it up, and it is a tongue twister.
Is it romantic?
Romanticization with a C in there.
Oh, jeez, that's just a horrible word.
Yeah.
And Anthony, points out, Kirk did the same thing in Devil in the Dark, right? Where they're trying to kill the creature, and Kirk was actually the one saying, "No, we're going to kill this thing," until he got a genuine opportunity to not kill it.
Yeah.
And Blade Runner says the Metrons wanted to watch the fight. I think that's what the Metrons are really secretly like Danny. They wanted to watch a good wrestling match kind of thing, and so they wanted to see
they ran out of MMA fighters.
Yeah. They're like looking for Kirk versus the Gorn, and they were just like, "Come on, we need to find something." Here we go. Battle of the Brawn. That's what it is. Let's see. Save image. Desktop. Give me just a second here. That's where I was going.
What are you digging for?
Huh?
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for an image that I have. So Oh, where are you hiding? Where are you hiding? There it is. And bam. Okay. I was changing my background image.
Ah, okay.
See?
Gora Kirk and the Gorn.
Yeah. The wrestling poster. That's what they wanted. They wanted a wrestling match between Kirk and the Gorn.
Yeah.
And Darren's man, we never got to see Worf fight a Gorn. That would be interesting. Worf versus a Gorn. The Gorn would definitely have the strength advantage over Worf because it seems like, at least from what we see, the Gorn seem to be physically the strongest species physically of all the non-godlike species.
Yeah, that we've seen in Star Trek so far. Yeah.
And I would like to see the I would actually really like to see the Gorn make a comeback and like have a serious fight with some Klingons. That would be cool. Death asks if I'm ever going to have Manu back on the show. Probably not. After some of the stuff he's done since I've talked to him, probably not. If you didn't know, I've had him on before.
Yeah. I've never gone back to watch it because I think the video's still up someplace. But...
Yeah, it's still up. And Darren thinks Data is stronger than a Gorn. I don't know. The Gorn seem pretty strong. Could Data pick up that rock and chuck it at Kirk?
Yes.
Have we seen?
And we've seen plenty of times when there's been cave-ins and this is in that's where Data is just shuffling stuff like it's nothing.
All right. Well, I'll take your word for it, but I'm just trying to picture. I know that he's picked up big rocks in cave-ins, like bigger than a human can do. But has he picked up anything as big as the Gorn picked up?
Pretty sure in Insurrection he did. But yeah, there's been so many times that the whole trapped in a cave thing has been a thing, or rubble on top of somebody.
Right. The TV Hulk versus the Gorn.
Lou Ferrigno.
The Lou Ferrigno Hulk versus the Gorn seems like a pretty even match. But then it depends, because the funny thing about the Lou Ferrigno Hulk is that his strength varies depending on plot. You know,
as always.
Sometimes the Hulk strains to pick up a car, and actually just roll over a car that a normal human can do. How do I know a normal human can do? Because Lou Ferrigno actually did it because the wire to lift the car was broken. In that scene from the pilot episode where the Hulk overturns the car, that's Lou Ferrigno overturning the car. And the Hulk is straining to do it, right? Because obviously Lou was straining to do it. Yeah. In other scenes, though, we see the Hulk picking up, like, oak trees
that are clearly made out of balsa wood.
Well, but I'm just saying it's still supposed to be a full-on oak tree.
Yeah.
And so it's something that like even heavier than what the Gorn picked up. So it just depends on and ripping through 6-inch thick steel. So it just depends on the scene.
Yeah.
But that is a little off topic. We're not going to be talking about the Hulk.
No.
The Hulk? What did I come back into?
We were talking about this and that versus the Gorn, and then somehow or another TV Hulk came into the picture.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it got random.
Yes,
okay.
Because I put
Things
up the
happened.
Kirk versus the Gorn wrestling card behind me. Because that's what that's the reason the Metrons didn't just settle their dispute. Because what I was saying right before you left was that the Metrons, since if they scanned both ships, they knew what was going on, and they should have just told Kirk, hey, did you know that Cestus 3 is in Gorn territory? And Kirk would have been, holy crap, no, I didn't. We need to apologize. And the fight, and he said, we're not going to, we'll back off. And the fight never would have happened. But instead, because the Metrons are jerks, they were like, no, we want to see you guys fight. Which is, kind of jacked up. Now, I think the Metrons are obviously very powerful, but they're obviously not omnipotent or omniscient.
Yeah.
However, I would like to say that once again, this is one of those things. This is a problem when you have such a big and expansive and continuing universe like this. Where the heck were the Gorn and the Metrons when the Dominion invaded the Alpha Quadrant? Because Gorn versus freaking Jem'Hadar.
Yeah,
I want to see that fight. That's what I want to see, especially if we use the Gorn from Strange New Worlds. Imagine if you have like an entire division of those guys charging a hill that is held by Jem'Hadar shock troops, and the carnage that would then ensue. Because the Jem'Hadar would want to fight the Gorn hand to hand, but the Gorn are so much more powerful. I think they would rip the Jem'Hadar to pieces. And so that's the fight I would really want to see.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we never got that. And so right here now, so this is our first full-on shot of the original Gorn. The suit, they do a good job of trying to accentuate the muscles to try and look physically powerful. Particularly like when it looks like it's trying to bite Kirk, it looks like, man, it could rip Kirk's face off with that mouth. But the only weak points you see are the ear holes, which Kirk exploits that weakness. And possibly the eyes, but we don't see anything there. And I do think that these are supposed to be some kind of contacts, like the Gorn, to protect them against the bright light.
Although whoever it was who did the remaster decided that they were actually eyes because they made them blink.
Right, but if they were going to do that, they should have replaced the eyes completely and had them look like the vertical slit eyes, so it was consistent with at that point Enterprise. Because both in Strange New Worlds we get the vertical slit eyes, which makes a lot more sense for a reptilian race.
Given the era this was made in, we could just blame it on someone had a fever dream.
Yeah. And Darren does point out you can blink over contact lenses. That is true.
Oh yeah.
You don't have to put all caps, Darren. We recognize your intelligence.
It's just funny because those contacts look very abrasive.
Yes. That's about the clearest shot we get of the Gorn ship in the whole episode, and it's
from that angle, if you look at it too quick, it almost looks like a quadcopter.
Yeah. Now this scene is hilarious to me because Kirk starts describing the Gorn as it turns around for the camera, as if to show off, hey, check out the suit we made. Because he's like, yeah, check this out. He's
yeah.
And look at those muscles on his legs.
Oh, the calf muscles? Those are just
those are insane.
If you're looking that jacked all the time, you're throwing 1,000-pound rocks for a joke.
Gorn quadcopter off the port bow, Captain. And this is the dialogue that I was talking about earlier. So he says right here, like most humans, I seem to have instinctive revulsion to reptiles. Come on. I must fight to remember that this is an intelligent, highly advanced individual. So like to the earlier question about how could they possibly be spacefaring, Kirk himself has to remember that this guy's just as smart as Kirk is. You know, he's a fellow starship captain. He's obviously a seasoned warrior. But we just assume that they're hideous monsters because their language is hisses and clicks, and they are very, very strong, and they wear Fred Flintstone outfits. Which is admittedly dumb.
Yabba dabba doo.
Yeah. And here we get the greatest fight in cinema history. Featuring the Kirk double fist. And
the super slow double fist.
Yes. I mean, I do love this fight. All right, here we go. Come on, Kirk. You can do it. You can do it. Da, 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 da. Karate chop.
Karate chop. Yeah, I was doing my WWF commentary when we were doing the watch along.
Yes.
The Gorn misses with the overhead lariat. Kirk retaliates with a karate chop and a double axe handle to the back.
Yeah, unfortunately, a
failed drop kick is blocked by the Gorn.
Yes. And right behind him, you see that's the rock that the Gorn is going to pick up and throw at Kirk later.
The Rock of Ages.
Yes. And hey, Dr. Alex, how you doing? And yes, Professor, I know I was doing the wrong song. It was intentional. And so I do, this fight scene obviously looks hilarious by today's standards, but that's just because we are thinking about it from, 21st century.
Today's standards.
Yeah, we're thinking about like when Spock fights the Gorn in 0G, comparing that to this is just not fair.
Yeah.
But man, could you imagine if they had today's visual effects back then, how cool that fight could have looked? An entire, like this episode in a nutshell, done with today's visual effects, dropping Kirk and a Gorn on an asteroid to fight like this. That would be cool. And especially, and it's not like, CG. No, because a lot of people don't realize that Gorn is not CG. Even the adult Gorn is a guy in a suit.
No, it's a guy in a suit. Yeah. You watched the I know you don't like Ready Room because of Will Wheaton, but it was really fascinating to see how they're all like the little ones are puppet. They're just enhanced with CG. They remove the wires and the sticks that they use to
the only truly CG Gorn you see is when you see them in Those Who Wander, when you see them scurrying across the floor. They have some fully CG versions, but most of the time, it's just puppets, and they use digital tech to remove, like you said, removing the puppeteers, basically. And correct, now you've seen you watched the Ready Room on that, Danny?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've only seen photos, so you correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like the body of the Gorn is a guy in a suit, and then there's puppeteers controlling the face.
Correct. Yeah. So like the dude's head is here, and like the Gorn's head is kind of like coming off.
Sticks out.
Yeah.
And then I assume you probably have other puppeteers controlling the tail. Or you have some CG tail too, because it looked like when the tail wrapped around Spock, it might have been CG. But they tried to use as little CG as possible. And that's something I actually really respect about Strange New Worlds, is that I think that's part of the reason I think these new Gorn look so good, is because they're practical. Now, what do you guys think?
I generally agree. I'm still not 100% clear on how much I do or don't like the Gorn as they stand today, but I don't dislike them. But there's no question on the production quality that's gone into all of the work that they've done so far.
Darren, they show that Gorn, like it might have been enhanced, but no, there was Will Wheaton even, they had it. They had the head of the Gorn adult.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I've seen photos of
They even showed how they did the eyes, because they had to put, because the eyes were egg-shaped, but then they had to put like a ball in the middle of it so they could still move the eye around, because you can't move an egg-shaped eye. Like they were showing how they controlled the, its face muscles, and like it was very much practical. Yeah. So.
And when Spock kills it, they might have. I don't know if the gas escaping from the mask was CG. That may be, but I'm still think that the face was not. The face was.
Well, it's hard to say. If they were going for a proper 0G appearance, they probably had to CG that in.
Right. There's the hug scene. And it's like, oh, they're making up.
Oh, he's giving him a bear hug like the Big Show used to do back in the day, or Mark Henry.
Hey, this predates the Big Show, buddy.
I'm telling you, whoever choreographed this fight was a wrestling fan. I'm telling you. It's like, sure, it was back in the days of Bruno Sammartino, but still, like these were all wrestling moves. It's like,
yeah, so Kirk throws what would be a big rock at the Gorn. I mean, look, that is a big rock.
That looks like a proper rock.
Right. If you were to chuck that rock at somebody and hit them,
they're having a bad day.
Yeah, that would definitely ruin their day. Especially considering Kirk is throwing it from the high ground, so to speak. So you get a little extra gravity on that. And he hits the Gorn dead center chest, which, if
show that real quick.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to it right here. So
Kirk, no, I mean my screen that I just shared with you.
Oh,
see, that's
yeah.
That,
so anyway,
that is an incredible piece of puppetry.
Yeah. Anyway, you can go back to your scene.
The Rock.
And by the way, that's a really good looking rock, I gotta say. As far as
it looks better than a lot of the rocks you do see used in stuff.
Well, and you pointed out during the watch along, it seemed to have the correct weight, because the way it bounced. Yeah, that right there.
Yeah.
So it hit him dead center in the chest. If you actually hit a human right like that, it would have completely collapsed his rib cage. It broken every rib. Probably done some severe internal damage to his organs, and he'd be bleeding out internally. That rock would be a fatal hit on a human. And the Gorn just shrugs it off like it was nothing, and he's like, "Oh, let me go get this rock."
Give me one second, guys. I just got a phone call.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Kirk's like, "Oh crap." And we see the Gorn not only pick up the rock, but throw it uphill at Kirk and overshoot him.
Yeah, he's like, you thought throwing the rock down was cute. Watch this.
Yeah.
I could throw it up.
Yeah. I mean, that is a ridiculous amount of strength.
Yeah.
Which is why I like, one of the things I like about the new Gorn is that if you look at the new Gorn, the adult Gorn that we see, it would be completely believable that thing could pick up a giant rock and throw it at you.
Yeah. Well, one of the more interesting things with the full-grown Gorn that I do actually like about what they've done with the body style is the multi-hinged leg. Like they have like an animalistic stance to their legs instead of standard bipedal setup.
Well, they kind of did that in Enterprise too. If you remember.
With the CGs that they had in that.
The CG one, yeah.
Now, then we got so Kirk starts finding the minerals everywhere. And I love the fact that, like, if you look, there's the coal right behind him. It's like bad shooting angle is bad.
Well, actually, the funny thing is all this stuff being placed around like it is,
I
it
know.
actually leans into your fan theory that the Metrons just were spoiling to watch an MMA fight.
Right, because they obviously put it all there.
It's like, oh, look at this conveniently placed folding chair beside the ring.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like, hey, look, there's a machine gun. So
yeah.
And the Gorn finds some obsidian, so he starts carving a shiv. And then now this scene is the most unbelievable part of the entire
yeah, we talked about this.
Yeah,
because there is absolutely no way that Kirk got that rock to move at all, except for he could have maybe rolled it down the hill.
Yeah.
So it should have been like right up there on the very precipice of this. And the Metrons could have put it right on the precipice as one of their weapons.
Yep.
That would have been fine. But the fact that Kirk actually rolls the rock uphill to hit the Gorn is like ridiculously stupid. But
Kirk is suddenly OP.
Yeah. But despite the fact that Kirk hits the Gorn with at least 1 ton rock dropped from about 5 stories up, and it hits the Gorn dead on and pins him down, the Gorn survives and then shrugs off the rock like it was nothing. That's just crazy.
And then Kirk falls over the laziest tripwire ever. Come on.
I mean, how did he not see that? I mean, granted, if you look at where he's running, he's like, oh, let me look backwards while I run. Oops. And then there's that same rock again. They really
that would have broke his leg. That would have broke his leg or his head.
Oh, yeah. I think we were saying that
Yeah.
as well. It's like, I don't know. Like, he's just not getting up from that. He's done.
That would have completely crushed, like right there, his hip is gone. His hip is crushed into powder right here. Because he's got a 1 ton rock rolled right into it. There's no way he survived that. That's one of those situations where he's only alive as long as the rock is still there.
Yeah. Don't move it. It's the only thing keeping my blood in me.
Yeah.
And I agree, by the way, Stan, that the Metrons put most of the stuff there. Because if you look at the minerals and stuff that are lying around, it's too convenient.
Yeah.
But in this episode, that's fine, because the Metrons said they prepared a planet for them.
Yeah.
So, but that also means that the Metrons, despite they're trying to say how advanced they are just a little bloodthirsty.
Might be dicks, kind of like some Vulcans.
Yeah. and this is where the Gorn accidentally walks into the camera. Hey, the dog licked the mouse. Sorry about that. Yeah. So So I love this. So the Gorn's just like, oh, hey, let me and so,
cut.
And then they're like, better cut to another scene. And so, here's the convenient sulfur that's convenient.
Hey, Gorilla, why'd you put Stan Lee in timeout? I hope that was just an accident.
Gorilla timeout Stan Lee? Why?
Yeah, and he deleted a bunch of his messages, too.
Well, if you time someone out, it'll hide all their recent.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I only figured that out.
That was accidental, Stan. So wait until Gorilla. What'd you do that for?
Or Stan, you can always hop into my chat. Nobody's over there with the wrench right now.
Hopefully, Gorilla will explain himself. He's probably right now. Gorilla's like throwing his kid across the room because
his kid did it, or he's gonna use Penny's excuse. I keep using my phone and I touch all the wrong things.
He did it.
Oh, actually, that's so funny. You called it.
So Bird with the best prediction ever.
Butt moderation, yeah.
That is literally what it was. So
Yeah.
so no more butt moderation. Be careful.
That's awesome.
You notice, like, not only is he wearing like thermal underwear, he is wearing like the equivalent of wrestling boots in this episode. Like,
those don't look like his.
Oh yeah, like the bit,
no, they
the
actually
super
have
tight.
the laces. Like I was,
Yeah.
yeah.
And he's got a really, really high waist set of pants on too.
Yeah.
Like when his shirt comes up.
Well, he's wearing that belt, which we usually don't see.
Yeah.
You see, notice no belts here.
No.
And the Metron's like, by the way, your guys are gonna die.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Metrons are total dicks in this. I mean, we gotta be real about it. And then and this is another thing that I thought was really stupid was where and we talked about it when we did the live watch through. How did Spock identify potassium nitrate by sight?
Yeah.
You know,
Vulcan, man.
like, unless I'm mistaken, that's potassium nitrate.
And Martin, Shatner didn't start wearing a girdle until the 3rd season. This is season 1, so.
Oh, the belt is for the translator device.
Yeah, it's keep. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But yeah, how did Spock recognize potassium nitrate? I want to know because that makes no sense. If you know. Well, yeah, I guess that's true, but that's not what potassium nitrate is.
Yeah, it's not guano.
Yeah, he's like, unless I'm mistaken, that's guano. And he can use that against the Gorn.
They have an there we go. He's got extra cones in his eye.
Yes.
I got butt banned.
Yes, congratulations. You did get butt banned. Gorilla's butt touched you in a very special way.
Yes, Gorilla. That's the whole point. Kirk ends up making gunpowder. To shoot the Gorn with the bamboo cannon later.
Yeah. So he starts out with finding potassium nitrate, and then he gathers together some sulfur, some coal, and of course diamonds as projectiles, and makes gunpowder. And for those of you that are thinking, "Oh, that's stupid," the Mythbusters actually put this to the test and confirmed that yes, Kirk could have done it if you get the proportions correct. This is just like Jason was pointing out. This is simple black powder. It's not refined modern gunpowder, but it's simple black powder. But it actually would have worked.
Yeah.
And Gorilla points out it wasn't my butt.
Okay, so it was his massive gorilla cock that accident.
Yeah, you were dick banned.
Yeah.
That's
so it's not just Vulcans and Metrons.
Oh, there you go, Mr. Rouse. It's a space dyslexia superpower. Very good. That's how he was able to do it.
No, I was asking that. No other iteration of Star Trek has ever mentioned the Metrons, according to these gentlemen.
Right, and they should have been, because the Metrons at the end of this were not hostile. And like that's why I say, like in a situation like the Dominion would have eventually been a threat to the Metrons. As well as, like, I don't understand why the Metrons didn't get involved or the Organians. You know, that's a real problem. You know, the Organians, like in the book Spock Must Die, they kind of explain away the Organians, but the problem is that book isn't canon. And so we need a reason why the Organians are no longer a part of the picture. In Strange New Worlds, it's not a problem because it's a prequel. But in any Trek that takes place after the original series, how can a major war ever break out without the Organians interceding? It just doesn't make sense.
No.
But anyway, so yeah, Kirk grabs the potassium nitrate, some diamonds. There's the sulfur, and there's the coal.
I just love his. You got to love Nimoy. Good.
Yeah. Where Nimoy just becomes the narrator of the episode here.
Yeah.
Where he starts telling everybody the recipe for gunpowder. Hey, kids, get some potassium nitrate.
Yeah, this is so pre Mythbusters. They don't have an editor, deliberately deleting one of the ingredients so that kids can't go and make it in their backyard.
And you're right, Professor. Strange New Worlds is a different timeline, but at the same time, and this is because we've been talking about this, is that we've been discussing two options. A, it's a different timeline. B, what if they're saying it isn't? How well does it mesh?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and because I think that's a fair conversation to have. I still insist, I will fight on that hill with my dying breath that Strange New Worlds is a different timeline, simply because of what we saw in the episode Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow.
Yeah.
There's no way around it. That being said, for people that want to say it's the same timeline and you have canonical issues, I think there's a lot less canonical issues than people, aside from visual differences, which you can basically hand wave away as being it's just modern production. But aside from visual differences, there's really not that many problems. In fact, no more problems than you have between any other two Star Trek series.
Yeah. Basically, the short way to summarize it is that what we've gotten with regards to the Gorn in this episode is far less than we would all like to pretend that we remember.
Right.
As Danny was saying a lot on the weekend, there's some serious Mandela effect going on with respect to just how much info we really have about the Gorn.
Right. So then Kirk shoots the Gorn, and then that's when Kirk shows mercy to the Gorn.
See little shards of the diamonds sticking out with the blood on it. And
yeah, that's actually pretty graphic for back then.
Yeah.
I mean, the blood dripping down, the diamonds sticking out of them, the blood on the tip of the obsidian blade. That is, where Kirk was. That means that Kirk was actually putting some pressure on that.
Yeah. Unless he put it on an open wound from the diamonds.
Right.
Because that would have, given him at least a leg up.
I just like the idea that Kirk pushed it like a half an inch into his neck, and he's like, "Oh wait, no." And meanwhile, there's like blood gurgling out of the Gorn. And you're right, Mr. Miles, that there are a bunch of species from TOS that never show up again. And yeah, like the what do they call them? Plutonians is the one you're thinking of. But
I think it's a wasted
complete isolationists.
Yeah. I think it's a wasted opportunity that not that I give a shit about Discovery, but Discovery or even Strange New Worlds don't revisit the Suliban. You know what I mean? Because they were made up in Enterprise, but Enterprise takes place before those two series, which was obviously shot after
so
this
Suliban
series. So
could easily be in Strange.
They could. So I'm curious as to, I don't know.
But Strange New Worlds has only been on for 2 seasons, so it's entirely possible to see them. And I wouldn't mind seeing the Suliban come back and get a with some of their genetic enhancements. It would be interesting to see how they do it with better special effects.
Yeah, no, for sure.
The Melcott Metrons, the First Federation. Yeah, with all these powers in the Alpha Quadrant, you would think that an invading group like the Dominion would have a much tougher time.
That's not a bad theory, actually, Darren.
What, this here?
Yeah, that's not a bad theory.
Well, and that's something that I'm hoping we're going to get more of, since the temporal Cold War was actually mentioned in Tomorrow and Tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I am really hoping that in season 3 we get more of the temporal Cold War.
Well, as much as the timey-wimey stuff gets frustrating from time to time, it is at least an easy way to kind of hand-wave fix certain aspects of storytelling. And you know, I think we all agree, even though it's an interesting exercise to try to make things mesh together, because Brian is of the exact same opinion of you on this, because I got through their Strange New World section from Saturday, and that is what you have on screen is the gospel with regards to what's really going on. So Akiva can go take a long walk off a shore pier.
Oh yeah.
I really don't give a crap what Akiva wants to say in some interview. What we see on screen tells us that this is a new timeline.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, come on, Khan being a child in 2023 or 24 or whatever, you know, that doesn't make sense.
Right. And not to mention the fact that there was a terrorist attack by Romulans. So, you know, that got to change the time. Actually, multiple terrorist attacks because they've been trying to slow us down from our progress into space.
Yeah.
So then we get the the Metrons. To the Metrons, everybody. So the and people said Star Trek wasn't progressive. We had an entire race of transsexuals.
There was lady boys everywhere in the galaxy.
I believe they're called transgender, but yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, transgendered. Yeah, they're non-binary. That's what they are.
Ah.
The Metrons seem to be non-binary. And the Metrons are like, "Oh, very good, Captain. Maybe in 1,000 years or so, we'll be ready to make."
Maybe there's hope for you after all.
Yeah.
But
you know, like I said, if there was a massive invasion coming through, I think the Metrons should act. And so, and you're right, Mr. Miles. Riker boned a non-binary alien.
Sure did.
But this is decades before that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, so suck on that. In fact, you want to talk about body dysmorphia in the original series? Kirk was literally a man trapped in a woman's body. And so, you know,
no, a woman trapped in a man's body, wasn't it?
Well, no, both.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, that's right. Because they were swapped, weren't they?
Dennis Lester hijacked a man's body.
Yeah.
But Kirk was a man trapped in a woman's body when she did that. So, you know. So yeah. Don't try to tell me anything about, you know, this. Anyway, so
that's why Star Trek fans are so much more tolerant than other people.
Yes. That, and we're just awesome. I mean, that's really all it is. So that was Arena and the original Gorn. And the funny thing about it is that there really wasn't that much information other than the Gorn are clever and very, very strong.
And territorial.
Yes.
Yeah, and very
in fact,
very protective of their territory, yes.
Hey, you got a little super thingy there, right?
Oh, thank you. Arabic. Yes, thank you. Need that money. You gonna say your thing, Danny?
Oh, super chat.
With a $2 super chat says the Metrons can't help if they were Gorn that way. Yes, a little Lady Gaga action there. So, moving on. So that's, you know, that's,
in fact, we talked about over the weekend when we were watching it,
and slow at least at, you know, yes, and at least slower than humans.
Yeah. But I did want to say, like, over the weekend we were watching it, Gorn free.
Gorn free as the wind blows. All right, go ahead.
Whoa.
I forget what I was going to say. Anyway.
You don't remember that song?
No. I was saying I don't remember what I was going to say.
Yes, you shoved the train clean right off the tracks there.
It's all good.
Going on the 4th of July.
Baby, we were going to run. Pornhub.
Oh man. Oh man. Okay. No, I have to. Time to go to Hover.
Man, we need that website. Gornhub.com. Oh, dude. Tell me that's available.
Somebody.
If it's available, we need it.
Oh, oh no, it's held by somebody.
It's being squatted on for sale.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be so perfect. We just put a picture of like a sexy lizard there.
Oh my god.
And then we say, oh, you can only enter if you're 18. And then if you click yes, it just takes you to our site.
Oh man. So close, but yet so far. All these squatters.
Yeah, that's
yeah. I can't really talk. I mean, I did a lot of squatting in the early aughts, and I made several $1,000s off some of the names. And I've got a couple that I'm still sitting on that I'm almost like giving up on, but I don't want to because I've been renewing them for like almost 20 years.
Like what?
Oh.
You know what I mean? So it's like,
yeah.
So like just the two I have in mind, the You Can Drive Now, both spelled out, and the letter youcandrivenow.com. So I've probably spent about $400 just keeping those names, and I have them up on markets to try to sell them. And it's like, I don't even know if it's worth keeping them anymore.
Well,
but I did get $5,000 for insertcoins.com. So that was nice.
Oh, that would definitely pull in the money because that's a useful name.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if you could times 4 what you paid in registration fees over the years, that would be a nice take, even if it isn't necessarily what, you'd love to get. But
oh my, I have to say thank you. I got a 420 special from Ariel.
Right.
Oh, she's crying. She says, Danny, tell Jason to stop being mean to me. Are you being mean?
I'm not being mean.
What's going on here? What's going on here?
I have no idea. What did I do?
Well, thank you for the tip,
I'll activate the Canadian sorry.
Well, Ariel, he'll be much nicer if you direct your money to me.
Of course.
Just saying.
Insert coins paid a lot, Stanley. Yeah, I got like $5,000 off of that name.
Coinslot.com. Yeah, I gotta say, I like the fact that we're getting into the Defiant here. Here we see some of the maintenance stuff in engineering. Like this is where the Jeffries tube goes to.
Yeah.
And we've never seen that in the original series. But the reason I showed this is because this is actually Ariel, my PayPal isn't showing you. Take a look in the description. It should be right there. It's like called bot. What's it called now? I can never remember. Botrix.
Oh,
it's a newer thing. It's actually
takes even less.
They take nothing.
Of a pull.
Botrix takes nothing.
Oh, really? Well, that's nice. I need to learn how to get on that from you. Because even though, like, I think out of that 420, I get like maybe $3 of it, which I'm still
Botrix. If you switch it from Streamlab to Botrix,
Elements
takes 0.
Okay,
it just goes straight to your PayPal.
So, after the show, I'll have to set that up. So, while looking at your description, it did remind me we have yet to mention our sponsor.
We have, and I meant to make some before the show, and I didn't. I'm sorry, but yes.
And she did send you a PayPal, Salty, so check it so you can thank her.
Oh, okay. Let me check it. And
Fuel up.
Fuel up.
That is-
So let's talk about fuel up for a second while I bring up my PayPal.
Yeah. Well, Jason, you still haven't got yours yet, have you?
I still haven't, and I did check the mail today.
So it could be a Canadian thing. I'll reach out to Terry and make sure it didn't get caught up in what do they call that?
Customs.
Customs, yeah. But here, I'll share the link here, or the screen rather.
The Joy Police, we'll call them that.
The Joy Police. So if you share the screen for me, Mike.
Jason can do it real well.
There you go. So if you use the link in Salty's description, I need to update mine. I keep forgetting to put it in mine. It'll take you to this page here. It's our Nerd Fights landing page with Fuel Up. Not only will you get free shipping on all orders through the link, but you will get 25% off all subscriptions, and you'll get 10% off each reoccurring order for life. And Fuel Up is a way to get yourself all the vitamins and nutrients and stuff that you probably aren't getting. I know I don't normally get. And they have 3 different flavors. Wake is kind of a tang meets grapefruit juice, so it's not too sweet. It's pretty good. It's got quite a bit of caffeine in it, though, so be warned. It's equivalent.
It is very tasty,
and it is good. My favorite is Play. Currently, I think they're still sold out of it. Sadly, let's see. Oh no. Nope. Back in stock soon. So yes, it is still sold out. But it is
still soon.
Yeah, it's my favorite flavor. It's fruit punch, and it helps with the concentration. It's something it's safe for you to drink a couple of throughout the day. And then Fuel Up Rest is to help you go to sleep. And all of these are to help you with your immune system and with all your vitamins and stuff. So if you take a look at the back, I think it shows it here. You've got only 2 grams. This is, which one did I click on? The one that's sold out. Let's look at So let's look at Wake. That's the one that he's got there. Yeah. So it's got 180 milligrams of caffeine for sustained energy with no crash or jitters. Supports and helps optimize the immune system. Supports hydration, general well-being, and relieves fatigue. It helps the body control inflammation from stress and exercise. It helps support the digestive system and the nervous system, and it supports recovery from overindulgence. So it's kind of like good for hangovers. Apparently, it only has 25.
Well, you probably have some experience in that department.
I may or may not. I am not going to. I will neither confirm nor deny that.
You shall have to try your own investigations, right?
Yeah. But I tell you what, it's got 333% of your daily recommended dose of vitamin C, so plenty of vitamin C. 133% of your daily recommended dose of vitamin E. It's got almost your daily recommended dosage, 89% of vitamin A. It's got vitamin B, 500% vitamin B12, 235% vitamin B6. So it's got a lot of vitamins. It's got a lot of vitamins. It's got and the best part is every time you purchase Fuel Up through this site, it helps support the show. We don't know how much yet because we just started doing this thing, but as soon as I find out, I'll let you guys know. The best
part is that it's FU.
It is.
Which is quite funny considering we started having the FU out of 10 courtesy of
yes, the
Birdo Prey 5.
Oh yeah. And this week's FU out of 10 is sponsored by Fuel Up.
Yeah, but even the F and the U are highlighted on Fuel Up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like they want you to remember FU.
And their logo is a
FU.
Like
what is this, Ariel? Would this be a good good for sorry. I thought you were making it was a real question. My eyes were reading that way wrong.
Would it be good for
actually, if you look on their site, Ariel, because I've actually gone onto their site, and they do list it as keto friendly, low to no sugar. Well, as soon as you say keto friendly, then the sugar content is insanely
You see
low.
the FU there. That's their logo.
Yeah.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's on the back of the bag too. A little
Yeah,
FU right there on the bag. It's like just.
So after we were talking about it over the week, and after Jason gets his, and we all get to, and he tries it out, and we can all give our honest opinions on it. We'll probably do a little pre-recorded thing that way in the future.
Yeah,
you don't have to see us stumble around with blurry things.
But suffice to say that so far, 2 out of 3 nerds on Nerd Fights recommend Fuel Up for those of you that drink liquids.
And it is not a coconut water concentrate. I actually have another.
There is coconut water in this one, though. This does have coconut water.
It's not. I wouldn't say it's concentrate, though. I have one that is actually. It's a different one I tried before Fuel Up. I still have in my closet over here. I can grab. That is. You can really tell because it tastes coconutty. So.
Yeah. So. The reason I paused it right here is this guy looks up and he's about to die, of course. This is our first shot of Gorn vision.
Yes.
Gorno vision.
Yes. And so this is long before
Martin Devin, he beat us. That's good. He says order now before it's all Gorn. Touche, sir. Touche. No, Darren, do not, whatever you do, do not snort the Fuel Up. You do not snort the Fuel Up.
Yeah.
Mix it with water.
Only Danny's mom.
Yes, we definitely made that joke yesterday. I don't know if you joined us for
Danny's
Battlestar, Darren, but
Fuel Up, but she's the only one.
And Ariel's asking if you saw her tip. She wants you to acknowledge her.
I didn't see it. No, I looked and I did not see it. And let me refresh here. Because where did you send it?
She said straight to your PayPal.
Really? Which PayPal?
I got to get the thing that you got because I don't want to pay tip or pay fees.
Pay any more than you have to. Yeah.
Nobody likes paying fees.
Because I do not see it. Let me log out.
And this is something we talked about on the weekend with this vision. This isn't necessarily something that's being lifted from Predator or anything like that. Reptiles. And
when you were on with your customer or your client at the start of the show, we actually got right into this at the start. And we said that, there are loads of reptiles out there. Well, not necessarily loads, but there's plenty to support the simple fact that reptiles can and do see in other parts of the electromagnetic spectrum than we do.
Yes. And some reptiles can actually see both ultraviolet and infrared. So there is absolutely nothing unrealistic about the Gorn having Gorn vision.
Yeah. And it wasn't anything, and I managed to forget about this. So I was glad we rewatched this. I thought Strange New Worlds introduced that, but it didn't. Enterprise, in fact, did. So I
would never have remembered this at all because I've only seen this episode or pair of episodes but a few times. So
sorry, I've been checking like everywhere I can check, and I do not see it.
Oh, that's okay. You just send me another one, and I'll be sure to forward it.
No.
That way. I'll forward it to you. To be clear, FU out of 10, I copied from History of the World Part 2 on Hulu.
Well, okay, I copied it from Bird. Bird saying he copied it from.
That's what. Yeah, that's what Bird said. Yeah.
So I apologize, Ariel. Tell me if the money is taken out of your account and it shows it was sent to me, then there's a problem somewhere. We need to track it down. Because I don't want you out money. In the mirror universe, at least, we know that the Gorn are known by the Federation. And what is Professor Brainy Speck saying? Copyright claim, shut down the stream. For what?
Oh, over the FU out of 10.
Oh.
So so the Federation knew about the Gorn, back in Archer's day, which is interesting because if it is a mirror universe, it would kind of indicate that it's possible that the Federation did know about the Gorn in the Prime universe as well. And so this is where the poor guy tells him about Slar, who is their
Slar.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I gotta wonder, if his skin is blue, why is he bleeding red?
That's a good question.
He should be bleeding blue, actually. But never mind.
Well, by that logic, we'd have red skin, so not necessarily.
Well, okay, but he shouldn't be bleeding because you can kind of see the anyway. Like Spock has a green tint to him because of the green blood in him.
Why, you green-blooded inhuman. Yeah. Well, thank you, Doctor.
And Ariel, there it is. Hey.
Super chat.
What?
I'll do this. Said in PayPal that Jason was against me and timed me out earlier because I called him out on his rich 8-house Canadian ways.
Oh, that's funny. We kind of talked about that on
Slander.
the watch-along.
Slander, you say?
I never timed anybody out.
Jason,
I've never even banned anybody. I'm sure I probably also let things go by that Mike would be like, I would have blocked that comment.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
Ariel's too sweet. Thank you.
Jason needs to set up the compound because when the apocalypse happens, I'm crossing the border. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've got a hill.
Oh wow! Look at
we'll
the
die on it.
On Twinkle.
Yes, I know, Professor, but if I guess that's a fair point.
Yeah.
But, we
actually, I'm really surprised that didn't immediately steer your mind clear of that.
What
the dark skinned people still bleed red like we do. All things considered.
Yes. And yes, he does say oot.
Yeah, the out does come out as oot sometimes.
So, Jason.
Yes.
What do you call a large wild canine?
Ah, jeez. Everybody makes fun of me for this one. I say woof, and I always drop the L.
So
everybody gets to laugh.
It's a wolf.
Yeah. I call it by the sound it makes. Yes. My wife fixed me of saying scallop incorrectly. Eventually, someone will get me fixed on the whole wolf thing. And then I'll be okay. And then the world will be good again.
But that's okay. At least you're not as bad as Bird of Prey 5 when it comes to, Mario. Have you ever heard him on that?
Oh. No, but we all have.
Bird insists all saying Mario wrong. That it's
do you see? Ariel says so. I apparently also say that Worf is Wolf too.
Mr. Wolf, I am not a dog.
Mr. Wolf. Wolf 359.
Woof. Oh man, this is going downhill fast.
Yes.
It's a good thing. I'm pretty comfortable about it all. And yes, so that people who might wonder when I brought up scallop, I always used to say scallop.
It is
except
scallop.
It's scallop.
No, it's scallop.
When your wife grows up in a fishing village her whole life.
I don't care if she grew up in a fishing village. They said it wrong.
Also, she's my wife. I'm not going to argue with her.
Well, okay, I'll give you that.
If only I were that smart, I probably wouldn't be single.
So Bird says Mario, not Mario.
Well, depends on what part of New York you're from.
So Archer's having really weird delusions about himself, and he wants to fight the Gorn. Now, in this episode, this is not going to take long because the Gorn is really just a B plot.
Yeah. He was sabotaging the Defiant.
Yeah, he's sabotaging the Defiant on their way to fight the rebellion. And this is actually another scene where we learn, despite the fact that the Gorn is a monster that talks and clicks and hisses, is a little smarter than we give him credit for, because he sets a booby trap and manages to take out an entire team of Makos,
including Malcolm Reed.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so after taking out the Makos, Archer is personally leading the search. We get a little more Gorn vision as he's watching Archer from above, because, you know, of course he is. And come on. And the interesting thing here is that while the animation on the CG Gorn that they do, I think looks really, really bad. There we go.
Yeah.
And I gotta give them credit where credit is due. They do make it feel like the Gorn is very bulky and massive and weighty, even though it just looks really cartoony.
Yeah.
Like when you see the two of them hitting it here, you know, it looks like, yeah, you know, he's hitting it and the Gorn is just like not even feeling their hardest hits.
He's like, oh god, this is Scorpion King from Mummy Returns levels of bad CGI. Just
Scorpion King's pretty rough.
I don't know. I think this episode is like, if only we could be as good as Scorpion King.
Oh gosh.
But if you look at the basic, okay, so this is actually a pretty good shot here. The arms and legs look very similar to the Gorn that we saw on Cestus, or not Cestus, but the asteroid after Cestus. But
or planet, whatever because that's not clear either. Because the Metron said planet,
right? The Metron said planet, but Kirk said asteroid.
Asteroid, yeah.
No, but the neck is extended.
Yeah.
The basic shape of the head is the same, but he has a lot more flexibility. It's almost snake-like. And so you can see, like right here, he turns his head completely around and just, you know, like that.
See, this is a good like midway between TOS and Strange New Worlds, actually.
Right. It actually does. That's what I say. Like, if you talk about, like, this almost does look like it's an evolutionary link between the two.
Yeah.
The only thing this guy's missing is the tail.
Yeah.
You know, and his head is a little too big. You know, because the head on the new Gorn is smaller.
Smaller, yeah.
And so then
Ariel, you got to remember, this is even though Enterprise takes place before TOS, this Defiant is from the TOS era. It's from the Tholian Web episode.
Yeah.
So that Gorn is
but no, this Gorn is from the
he's from the Enterprise era.
Yeah, remember,
he's from the Mirror Universe.
So he is from the Enterprise era.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right.
Only the ship is from the TOS.
The slaves were from the Tholians.
Right.
And then okay.
So they turn up the gravity to squish him and hold him in place.
And Archer puts two in the head.
And then this Archer, being kind of a jerk, just takes a gun.
Oh, man, he just empties it into him.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, bam, bam, bam. You're dead.
Yeah, Mr. Miles. I mean, that is a possibility. Lizard, like maybe he did lose his tail, you know, like he got trapped in a door or something earlier.
Yeah, and as Darren points out, yeah, so this Gorn clearly has the eyes of a lizard. I'm trying to get a good shot of it again, but
you had it.
Yeah, there.
Right there.
So if you look, you can see the vertical slit eyes, which we do see in the modern Gorn as well. The basic mouth structure is the same. It's just that the whole head is much bigger on this Gorn.
Well, Mr. Miles, there wouldn't be enough time for this archer to hang his head on a wall because he's about to get double crossed by Mayweather and Hoshi.
Yeah, which you loved every scene that Hoshi was in.
Good God, are you kidding me?
If you when I posted up on the Patreon, if you want to see Danny just spontaneously have pleasure to himself, every time Hoshi came on screen, he was a little too happy.
I haven't had the sweet caress of a woman in far too long, so yes, sometimes I get a little too excited. I apologize.
Yeah, you were way too excited.
And yes, Darren, I agree. Mira Hoshi was a smoke show, easily the hottest chick on the show, like as that version of her,
No, I agree. I'm not going to argue with that. Didn't you make a comment from way back when we heard and saw the Gorn in First Strange New World stating that the reason all three of these Gorn looked different was because of different tribe? Yeah, I thought that. I thought it was similar to the concept of the Predator, where the Gorn were different depending on what they hatched from. But it seems that's not the case.
Well, that's also headcanon. I mean, we don't know.
No, but from what we see now, the Gorn are based on, and I actually, I could show you, but it might make you want to puke. I have the footage of this wasp that lays its eggs inside of a caterpillar, and then the eggs hatch and consume the caterpillar, and then spring out of the caterpillar, and it looks very much like when the baby Gorn popped out of the guy in Not All Who Wander, the episode where we saw the baby Gorn in season 1. And it is kind of grotesque, but it's it's dead on what the Gorn do. But there's no genetic mixing of the Gorn and the host. The only thing the host serves as is a food sack.
Yeah.
And an incubation sack.
If they started doing the takes on elements of, that would be a ripoff of Alien.
Right.
Yeah. Now they did clearly in the how do you say hegemony?
Hegemony.
In that episode, there were a couple. Where what's the captain's name that Pike's banging? Super chat.
So Darren says, Danny, the touch of a woman makes you unsmart.
I would have to agree with that because the last one for sure, I did a lot of dumb stuff.
Seinfeld did have a theory in an episode.
Yeah,
I will say this: men will do the dumbest thing for women.
Yeah,
men will do anything for women. So.
Yeah.
Women think that men like that. Let me tell you, if there's any women listening to me right now, hear this.
Ariel, I saw that. I said thank you that you were so sweet. Thank you so much for that, hon.
The patriarchy is a complete myth. There's no such thing because women, you have 100% of the power. It's just you don't always use it.
Thank you, Bird. Battelle, there's a scene in Hegemony where the adolescent Gorn gets right in her face. I think they even admitted that they lifted that from Alien 3.
Now that one, I expect that's going to get mocked because I even saw in Nitpicking Nerd's review. Nitpicking Nerd really kept that scene on the screen for a while, and he even said that he's going to be putting out a mock take of all of the Alien ripoffs that he found.
Right. So, I would say that they did have some moments that felt like that they lifted from different sources, but the actual reproductive cycle of the Gorn, no.
Yeah.
The is nothing like the Alien reproductive cycle, really. The only thing it has in common is that there is an external host, but that's it. the other than that, they have nothing in common.
Yeah.
And the Gorn do not have acid for blood, and the Gorn are not basic, because the aliens from Alien are basically animals. They're not highly evolved sentient beings, except for maybe the Queen.
Yeah.
But the Queen controls the drones, so but the Gorn are every bit as independent and thinking as humans. And yes, the baby Gorn eat their way out of the host. So do wasps and the caterpillar thing.
Yeah.
But the baby Gorn got there because they were the eggs, not like some multi-stage
right
facehugger egg thing combo.
Right. They're eggs that are laid on people and burrowed in.
Yeah. And for me, like, I'm a huge Alien and Predator franchise fan. And for me, the only thing that was a little annoying was the way they made the tail behave. Everything else I could kind of put up with without feeling like it was too much of a ripoff. Oh, you're getting the gross ready, are you?
I am.
No God.
Danny's like, I really have to look away if this is real.
So
gotta go by.
This is from Nat Geo, actually. So this is a caterpillar that has been infected, and when they put the camera inside the caterpillar, you can see the larva at 12 days growing underneath the skin of the caterpillar. And then as we fast forward in time, and the caterpillar just continues on its thing. It's just still eating, leaves and doing its thing, as they continue to grow. And then once the larvae reach a certain point, let me try to get to it. Here we go. Right there. Look at that. Take a look, Danny.
I'm not looking. Not gonna do it.
No worry, it's not that bad.
Oh, gross.
So yeah, they literally just bust out of it.
Yeah.
So yes, Mr. Miles, this is how men can have babies. So yeah, that is a
God, come on, take that
thing.
Down. Thank you.
Hey, I just wanted to show I did do my research on this.
I'm gonna have nightmares in your kid. Gosh.
What? Just think about the very.
Don't chiggers do that?
Huh?
Don't chiggers do that? Don't they
Well, there's some kind of, I think it's in Australia, which doesn't surprise me, but I'm pretty sure there's a crazy kind of wasp that will actually slip one of their eggs onto the back of another kind of insect or a spider, and then it grows and just slowly eats, like it fully grows inside and eats its way out.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
And Darren with a $2 super chat. Danny, look at what the woman super chat. Because Danny, look at what woman touch has done to you.
Yeah.
So
just made me a pansy, sure.
Yeah, for the sake of being complete, in the animated series, we do have this shot of various species. And notice it's not even.
I want to pause it, man. Don't want to get a copy.
Don't worry, it's not even animated. It's a still picture that the camera hands from.
Yeah.
I mean, look at this. Nobody moves. Not one. There's not. This is one picture.
Oh. Pause it right there.
Yeah.
Notice how they maintain the consistency of what you brought up about Journey to Babel, Danny?
Yeah, with the teller
his eyes. His eyes look
eyes.
like they're just
It looks like
hollow.
The makeup.
Yeah.
And there's Mr. Gorn.
There's a Gorn.
And that is it. That's all we see of it.
Yeah.
Is that shot.
I just found this while unpacking stuff today, I have a Gorn action figure here.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I forgot I had this thing. Yeah.
I didn't know they ever made a Gorn action figure. And no, Ariel, that's not a Zindi. I mean, come on, this is obviously before the
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember what that is, but in the middle, that plant is from another episode of the animated series. Obviously we have an Andorian.
Ariel and Darren asked the same question at the same time. That's funny.
Yeah.
It does look like it could be a Zindi insectoid.
It does.
Yeah.
Makes you have to
The woman in
wonder
the
if
white
there was a
uniform
special
is,
features.
that was Mon Mothma. They just snuck her in as like an Easter egg.
Mon Mothma?
The
lady.
light ship.
Oh, from
yeah.
Star Wars? Okay.
Yeah.
Darren, what if they did? Maybe they did. I don't know. Brian and I get into the argument all the time that he claims the animated series is not canon. I claim that it is.
According to the official Star Trek timeline, it is.
It is. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, but Brian is very adamant that it is not. So.
And you know what? I've been very adamant that it is not, but at the same time, according to the timeline, it is. And if according to Paramount, it is.
Well, they've certainly used a lot of the animated series stuff.
And by the way, I got that from Professor Brady Specs, just to give credit where credit is due. He's the one that corrected me on that. Because I kept insisting that the animated series is not canon, but he pointed out that it is part of the official timeline.
Yeah.
So since it is listed in the official timeline, I will say yep.
We need to send Professor Brainy Specs over to the podcast to straighten Brian out then, because he's just like he won't let that go.
Well, it's kind of double think on display though, because Brian, it's very much what's on the screen is the absolute beginning and end of all truth, and that Kurtzman and Goldsman can go pound sand, but then when he doesn't like it, he ignores it.
Yeah.
Now,
all right.
Now, we could go through all the stories of Strange. There's 3 episodes of Strange New Worlds, but we don't need to do all that. But I wanted to focus on the adult Gorn that we see here.
Oh, good pause right there.
Yeah.
Good pause. See, I do like the other than the tail, the shape of this adult Gorn is a lot like the one from Enterprise. The way the legs and the calves,
right?
Yeah,
the tail is the only major difference. If you look at because even though it looks like the head goes out further, remember part of that is the space helmet,
right?
If you look carefully at the space helmet, the part you can see through, there's no face there.
And any of the embellishments at the rear of the head.
Yeah.
I'll say with air quotes in my voice. Those are very likely just part of the helmet.
Right. Because he is wearing a full body suit here.
Yeah.
Because the Gorn need protection from the elements even more so than humans. Because it's the trope that space is.
Yeah, I don't remember who it was. One of these guys, big YouTuber. I don't want to misspeak, but it's somebody like a Dave Cohen. I'm not saying it was him. But if anybody out there in our chat knows who it was, tried to say that the Gorn were shown as being able to live in the vacuum of space without a suit. And I don't know where they got that from, because we watched everything that the Gorn had been.
Yeah, no. And I watched some of these scenes multiple times.
Yeah.
And no, I think they're just... Their frustrations are just starting to blind them to what it is that they're seeing.
Yeah. Right, because it's clear that the Gorn have they have technology. He's wearing a space suit, and
and he dies because Spock cracks his helmet. And
exactly.
Oh.
And now Darren says no animal has a 90-degree neck like that. I present to you, Darren,
The weird dog on your lap.
Yes, she can bend
Exhibit
her head
A.
in any direction. Of course, now she won't do it. Spring, hey, come here. Yeah, there you go. See, yeah, I know. I'm just trying to get Darren to see that. Yeah, see, look at that neck. Look at that neck. All right.
Actually, our beagle seemed to have the ability to turn his neck an awful far distance around too.
As far as because if you look at the shape of the helmet, I don't think that that's necessarily a 90-degree neck as much as the helmet is just covering a lot.
Yeah, there could be all kinds of gear sitting back there, and that if you drew a vertical line almost where seemingly his arm is, that would actually be empty space back there.
Right.
And that everything to the right of that vertical line is helmet.
Well, Bradley, if you can point out what episode that is, because we didn't. I would love to see it. I would love to be proven wrong, because I'm pretty sure that was the only episode the Gorn was in.
Yeah, you might be you must be thinking of a different species, because the Gorn only appeared in A Mirror Darkly.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's a reptilian Zindi you're thinking of, or
probably
some other species.
Yeah, because
because and what Darren?
Oh, goodness sakes!
What's that? Now?
The random comment from Darren.
I would much rather negotiate with the personalities of Danny and Jason than Kermit, Mercer, and Chief Cook. Well, I can understand that. Yeah, Danny and Jason negotiating, but I'm not sure why you're saying that exactly.
Just the absence of context is funny enough, actually.
He's planning on negotiating something there, Darren. He's like holding hostages, and he's saying, I'll negotiate with Danny and Jason, but not Kermit, Mercer, and Chief.
Yeah. It's like The Negotiator, except no Sam Jackson in it.
Oh, man. Okay, we've got two negotiation teams. Jason and Danny, or Kermit, Mercer, and Chief Cook. Which team do we send?
Oh, man. So, well, according to Memory Alpha...
did we miss something according to Memory Alpha?
Discovery and Lower Decks had Gorn appearances, but I quit watching Discovery, so
Discovery had the Gorn skeleton, not an actual Gorn, and I didn't bother to put that in because that's not actually any new information. Just like
it says. Oh, you're right, skeleton only, and then Lower Decks. Much Ado About Boimler, model only. No Small Parts, model only. Mugato Gumato, model only. But apparently, an embarrassment of Dupplers in Veritas, a Gorn makes an appearance. But that's also animated, so I don't know. I didn't. Yeah. So yeah, but nothing in the only time they showed up in Enterprise was in A Mirror Darkly Part 2. So whoever, because I want to say that other YouTuber I was talking about said the same thing, that the Gorn were going from one ship to another through the vacuum of space. And I
haven't watched Dave's.
It might not have been him. It might have been somebody else, but it was somebody big like him. You know what I mean?
It could have been Suliban. It could have been, a Zindi. It could have been. There's so many different species it could have been.
Yeah.
But it definitely was not Gorn.
No.
Because this the Gorn that we were just looking at was pretty much it. And this guy, there we go. That's our first good look at the Gorn face. And you can see that the basic structure of the face is the same.
Yeah.
Now, it's possible, because we don't really know. We haven't seen him without his helmet. If you take the helmet off, he could have like flaps that are down that come up that actually make it look bigger. because we don't know how much of that, because
Well, I showed you that photo.
the
well, I know, but
prop,
we
the
haven't
practical.
actually seen in canon the Gorn without a spacesuit.
Right, an adult Gorn.
Yeah, the adult Gorn, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is really unfortunate. And again, comes back to I hate the short seasons. I hate the fact that they decided to do what they did with the overall story plot because they wanted to get some goofy episodes in here and there.
Jesus.
Yeah, because we could have used more Gorn rather than, musical theater and Spock becoming a human.
Yeah.
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 Because man, I gotta hand it to him. I think the especially with the artistry that goes. I mean, look at that. A lot of people were absolutely convinced that what we're looking at is CG.
Yeah, I know, and
because
it's
it's
practical.
Too good to be a puppet.
Yeah,
but it is just a puppet, and that's the amazing thing about it is that they did such a great job with it for it to only be in a total of about 30 seconds of screen time.
Yeah,
and so that's it's a crime against humanity that they created such a cool monster and barely used it.
That critter is why they used the backlot down on the planet.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, this was their effects budget, right?
Oh yeah, all their money went into this. Yeah,
but if you're going to pump that kind, I mean, because obviously that suit cost millions to make, but and well worth it. But they should have used it, and that's
this is one of the big things that drives my complaint about this partially
about is where it was like why did the Gorn leave them alone?
And
there he's dying right there.
Yeah. So in the 0G fight, I also thought this obviously was a difficult scene to make. A lot of visual effects. You had the puppet. You had everybody on wires.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? You got a guy in a suit with a animatronic puppet head on wires.
So, well, considering
like huge too, he's a huge dude. They showed him on the
guy that's in the
Ready Room. Yeah, the guy. Yeah, he's almost 7 foot tall dude.
To make the suit look right, you would have had to have a giant guy.
Oh, that's a good shot right there.
Yeah, there now. This is a good shot of the eyes, so you can see the vertical slits in the eyes.
Yeah.
And just ridiculously good looking. And unfortunately, just not enough of it.
Yeah. Imagine this Gorn and Pike getting beamed down to
exactly by the Metrons. Metrons be like,
fight.
We were going to have this fight, but it just wouldn't be fair.
Yeah. There'd been a brown pant alert immediately.
Yeah.
Brown alert. And so I don't understand why this season 2 of Strange New Worlds feels to be so close. They had the pieces, but they didn't have the execution.
Yeah. And yes, to answer the question, Ariel, it was the last episode of the season, and depending on what shakes out over the next 12 to 18 months, maybe ever, but we'll see.
And I'll tell you that. I know obviously reincarnating Leonard Nimoy would be great, but Ethan Peck is a good Spock. I do. Yeah. Even though they've had some goofy episodes with him this season, I still like Ethan Peck as Spock. And I'm just hoping that in season 3, they course correct on the goofiness. I hope that they pay attention to the fan reactions to this season.
Well, they're going to have plenty of time with the writer's strike to hear everybody like us, assuming
they're going to listen. That's the problem.
Yeah.
We don't know. I mean, the producers may be set in their ways, But
But I mean, executives and the amount of money that's being bled left and right now, and the cuts that they're trying to make, nobody's going to want to run any kind of property that isn't basically an absolute shoe-in.
right. But the thing about Star Trek, and this is what makes me mad, is I know we've talked about this before. Star Trek will never be Star Wars. It's never going to be the billion-dollar franchise.
No, it's
But
niche.
if you simply produce good quality, first of all, you don't have to pump as much money as you're pumping into it. If you give Star Trek a moderate budget and you write decent stories, you will have an incredibly loyal fan base.
Yeah.
And you will make money. Are you going to, make $1 billion? No, but you will make money. And so it will always be profitable for you to have Star Trek if you do it well. But if you continue to burn the franchise like you did with Discovery, especially, or the first 2 seasons of Picard, then you're going to turn that same audience against you. Strange New Worlds has been a really mixed bag, and so because of it, it's been very divisive among the fans. And if they would just produce Strange New Worlds with a consistency, more like season 1, but actually with sci-fi writers, man, I think they could knock it out of the park. And focus on the sci-fi aspects instead of trying to focus on the CSI aspect.
I don't know. This season of Strange New Worlds has almost felt schizophrenic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just,
Well,
all over the place.
Bipolar. That would be a good way to look at it as well.
It's writer's room syndrome. It's the fact that you have sitcom writers writing sci-fi. And you've
got showrunners that are not really cut out for science fiction, regardless of Star Trek or not. Because as much as we would like to pretend that it matters if somebody who is a Star Trek super fan is in control, we know for a fact that some of the best Star Trek has been made by people who are not super fans. And in some cases, never watched a stitch of Star Trek until they actually had to start their job. And I speak very specifically on Wrath of Khan and Undiscovered Country.
Right. Which are considered the best of the best.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we have to be reasonable with some of our expectations on this. Right. And sometimes, actually, here's a good way to think about this. If you had someone who was way too far out on the edge of being a super fan, that person starts making fan fiction, but with a budget.
Right.
And that's not necessarily a good thing, because it turns into a game of what they specifically want to see, as opposed to something that is a functional, workable addition to the universe that has legs to it, that can be more can be done with.
Let me piggyback on that. You get something like Picard season 3, which, don't get me wrong, I know a lot of people love Picard season 3, but you know what Picard season 3 couldn't do? Continue to be season 4, season 5, season 6, season 7. There's no legs to Picard with Terry Matalas as much as people loved it, because you can't continue that type of storytelling with any length of time.
And you know what? I'll take that comment, Darren, and I'll actually add that to the list of reasons why I brought both those movies up. And that is because Nicholas Meyer knew to respect what he was hired for.
Right. And he took,
because I have seen those interviews where he actually says, yeah, I went out of my way. I went and I watched Space Seed, and I watched a bunch of Star Trek. I think he even went back and watched the TMP.
But he watched the entire original series, and Khan was like the villain that stood out.
Yeah, and So really, the fundamental base comment when it comes to either a showrunner or a director, in the case of a movie, you just need someone who's competent, who isn't full of themselves, and has the humility to understand that they might be wrong. Because one of the other things that we get into a situation with, especially with established names, is we have what a lot of people referred to as, the George Lucas problem, which was that the prequel movies had so many issues because no one had any kind of guts to ever tell George, sorry, bud, you're wrong.
Right. But it's funny because when we talk about Nicholas Meyer, especially, but we look at when he created Star Trek II. Star Trek II was what you get when someone studies the original series and says, okay, what would that world look like 20 years later?
Yeah.
And that's what he came up with Star Trek II. When we look at Star Trek the Motion Picture, that was Gene Roddenberry trying to say, well, this is what I really wanted to do. And really what Star Trek the Motion Picture was like a sequel to The Cage. If you really look at it. And because that's what Gene wanted to do.
Well, and if you lean into the frustration that you quite often get lit up on, which is people thinking that everything Star Trek is 100% Gene Roddenberry until Gene Roddenberry died.
Right.
The reality is, as much as people might want to love on the guy for him being the seed,
buddy.
You're
right.
Exactly. That's actually exactly where I was going. You jumped to where I was going. He hated that movie.
Didn't like the militarization of Starfleet in Star Trek II and Star Trek VI.
There were circumstances continuously in the 80s during the production of the movies and of TNG where they were constantly basically having to tell Gene lies and all kinds of nonsense and hide stuff from him, and because he was just too much of a problem. I mean, it didn't help that the guy was hooked on drugs by that point, but I mean, he was an idea man, just like George Lucas. I'm as a consumer of all the content that's come from the guy, I'm very happy with the fact that he existed and did what he did, and yay for him that he did what he did do to contribute to storytelling in the human race. But he's not some panacea. He's not the source of all things.
Right.
And
most of what you remember about Star Trek didn't come from him.
Correct. Especially the best of Star Trek.
Right. So, and that's, but what we know is it says Star Trek created by Gene Roddenberry. And so people assume everything about Star Trek was created by Gene Roddenberry.
Yeah.
And by the way, I wanted to respond to something Darren said earlier. He said like this fight with Spock and the Gorn he felt was iconic. I agree. I think this was a great fight.
Yeah, it was a good shot.
It was brief, but it and that's one thing. They didn't stretch it out to try and pad it. It was just long enough to get across what they were trying.
It was appropriately punctuated.
Yeah.
Especially when he punctuated that mask.
And Spock only beat the Gorn because he was smart.
Yeah.
And
that actually is very Star Trek.
Yeah.
Using smarts to beat.
Darren wants to point out that I don't know what
Salty doesn't know it.
Well, that's the cannabis. That's the name of a cannabis delivery service out here in Vegas. So.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's cute.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure Mike knows what a panacea is.
No, I just know, that you were saying big words.
Oh, okay.
So Darren thinks I'm dumb, so I got it.
Although what's actually really funny that took me forever before I eventually realized that cornucopia is the cornucopia is that big horn thing you always see. Yeah, I
Oh, you didn't know that was a cornucopia?
For years. It was probably only about 15 years ago when I finally actually came to know it. And, knocking on...
It's funny when you learn something like that. You're like,
oh! Yeah. And when you're this old, 15 years ago, is still when you're well into being an adult, and you're like, no, I had no idea. I'm sorry. I also say woof. Do you remember that?
Yes, he does say. Well, yeah, he doesn't know what wolf is. So
Yeah.
there's that. So,
Yeah.
so what?
I
what
know
does
where
a-
my
what
borders
does a-
are.
What does a wolf say?
Perhaps he says wolf. he does it the
So
other way
wolf
around.
Says wolf. He barks with an accent.
Yeah.
So does Jason like moose?
Moose?
He means cows.
Yeah.
He's trying to be
Oh,
wolf. Wolf.
yes, I do like the moose.
Does he like?
I like to
meow?
eat them.
I used to love cats as a kid, but if I'd want to punt one outside every time that they tore my house apart. If I had one now, I don't have the patience for a cat anymore. They get into too much mischief.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. The gasping and the desperation and the flailing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is an excellent scene. And again, yet another great example of production values and set practicalities just knocking it out of the park.
Right.
There's hardly anything to ever complain about with any of that aspect of any of the storytelling. But then, yeah.
But then we get to some of the writing, and that's
And
the
it just
Achilles heel of this show.
Yeah.
It's and by the way, Achilles is a character from mythology.
Yes,
who
thanks
actually
to
had a
the
problem with his heel.
yeah, thanks to the Greeks,
Yeah.
that's why we call that body part an Achilles tendon.
Yes, because he was dipped in the river Styx, but his mom held him by the heels, so his heels did not get the water on the back of his heels, and that's why he was vulnerable there, because being dipped in the river Styx made him invulnerable, but that one part of his skin was never wet. So yeah. In case, see, I actually know something.
I know a thing.
I know a thing. I know why Achilles' heel is called Achilles' heel. But yeah, I wonder if Gorn have Achilles' heels. But yeah, definitely the Achilles' heel of this show is the writer's room.
Yeah.
And that's why, like with this writer's strike, I say, burn them to the ground.
Yeah, my sympathies are pretty low considering how little good content we've been getting for the last say 10 years.
The actors, honestly, I'm mixed on the actors going on strike. I get the AI concerns, and I think that's legit. But but as far as the writers are concerned, I really don't have much. Okay. Do I think ChatGPT can? They say, "Oh, you're going to write scripts with ChatGPT." You know what? Right now, ChatGPT could probably write a better script than some of the crap you're putting out.
Yeah, that's the sad part.
So if you really the problem is that writing, an AI shouldn't even be able to compete with a good writer.
No,
there should be
no
comparison.
If you actually go back and look at some of the stuff that comes out of ChatGPT with a very, English professorial approach to it, most of it's not very good. It's the same thing as people that were getting all freaked out. The best comment I've seen from people I follow in the programming universe is anyone who tells you that ChatGPT will replace programmers is clearly not really a programmer.
I don't know about that, but I haven't had to pay a content writer for any of my website stuff since I discovered ChatGPT. I just did an entire mobile repair device website using ChatGPT. I sent it over to the client, asked him to. I even told him, I was like, I used AI for this because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I need you to look it over, make sure it's correct. And he was like, man, that was great. Yeah, it's perfect. I was like, right on. So. I don't know.
Well, it can be good if you prompt it very carefully.
Right.
Yeah, and it all didn't work for the first time. You have to give it feedback and give it notes.
Yeah.
And,
But you're also having it do more technical writing.
Yeah,
You're not
yeah.
having it write a creative story.
I haven't tried to play around with it.
I've tried to have it write creative stories, and they always come out really stupid. Like we created one with chihuahuas invading in spaceships. And
and they were like part of the power system or the pilots or whatever.
No, they were navigators. They were
Yeah.
chihuahuas were the navigators of these spaceships. It's somewhere in Skype if you still. It's
Yeah. I'll have to go dig it up. It's
but the so using an AI for something like that, I can kind of understand. If the AI has the correct information in its database, then for technical writing, it would be great. So if you're a technical writer, sure, you could get nervous about AI. However, if you're a script writer, writing effective dialogue is not just knowing the answer to questions on, from a database.
And especially considering that we do know to an extent that the algorithms that are driving most of these chatbots, which is actually a much better way to really think of them, is they don't actually understand context.
Right.
They are basically generating the vast majority of what they poop out based on iterative regurgitation, if you will.
There's I watched
Arabic. The closest thing to a canine alien that we've seen in Trek is a Targ, I think.
Yeah. So I watched the
Oh no, we did get that poor little, what was it? It's like a Cocker Spaniel that had that stupid suit on it in the original series.
Cocker Spaniel with antenna.
Yeah. So I was watching Shuttlepod show. It's either last night or this morning, and it was the one with Terry Metalis, and they ended up talking about, it wasn't chat. I forget the name of it. And if anybody in the chat knows the name of it, I think it started with a D. But it was like a Chat GPT, and Terry was talking about how, because he was curious, he just started using it and then giving it notes, and it was like, and then he mistakenly goes like, at some point he's like, man, this is a lot easier than working with a writer, and then he immediately was like, but I am not advocating for AI. Right? And it's on their show. I mean, they didn't cut it out or anything.
Well, it can't be Dolly because Dolly's art.
No, it wasn't Dolly. It was like, it was a one syllable word. I can't remember.
Well, you see, the thing
but
is,
it's in there. It's on the show.
Yeah,
but Terry is also, I mean, because if you're giving, when we say he's giving it notes, he's basically storyboarding it. He's writing it for the, and so basically,
well, he said he was basically interacting with it the same way he would a real writer. Like he would.
Oh
say,
yeah, maybe
here's
it's
my
Bard.
idea, and then it spits out the idea. Then he gives it notes what he wants changed, and then it spits out another version. And he said that he made a joke. It was maybe it is Bard. I don't know. It might be. He as soon as he said it was easier than dealing with a writer because there was no feelings involved or blah blah blah. It was funny. He was like, "Oh, he's like, I'm not making an argument." Like he totally like flipped it up. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. One of the best things, and I don't know that we've on the odd occasion when we get talking about all these procedural generative chatbot type things. One of the more interesting aspects of how to take advantage of it is to treat it as the ultimate macro that will talk back to you, so to speak. He's using Bird, the Kurogan AI.
That would be horrifying.
Speaking of Kurogan, we're getting on the Kurogan time scale here because I do.
Oh, yes, we
try
are.
to put it in the private chat, but I guess.
Sorry. Yeah.
I've never
Yeah,
heard
we
of
should.
Bard. What is that?
It's Google's attempt at an AI to compete with ChatGPT.
Oh, okay.
Now I'm going to want to go back to Shuttlepod show and find it so I can tell you guys next time.
Well, there's so many of them now because there's a bunch of the engines are actually available to download, and so long as you have a reasonably powerful enough computer, you can actually run your own GPT. It's never going to be as fast as talking to, say, ChatGPT 3.5. But yeah, you could actually host your own if you wanted to.
Yeah, I've had this thing that Brian sent me. He clearly thinks I am smarter than I am. It's GitHub. It's got the source code, everything you need for unstable fusion.
Yeah.
And I don't know Python. I don't know why he thought I knew Python, but I don't know Python.
And yes, I know.
You should be able to pick up Python pretty easy. It's mostly natural language, and it uses indentation as opposed to curly braces and all that nonsense that you get from the big boy languages.
Okay.
So
yeah, I was listening to LDG rant on somebody's show about that. Good luck, buddy. If you crack that code, I'll believe it when you're rich and you're giving us all like $1,000 super chats, you know. So.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that we can sum it up by saying that while Strange New Worlds does have its issues, the Gorn ain't one of them.
No.
I would have to agree with that. Yeah.
And so at least on our panel, we all like the Gorn overall. And while it is understandable if you're a purist that the Gorn shouldn't have a tail, other than that, the Gorn that we see is actually extremely consistent with the Gorn that we see in both the original series and Enterprise.
Yeah,
so,
the tail really is the only defining difference.
Yeah, and so that even there's not a whole lot of difference, and behavior wise, there's not a lot of difference. And if you want to try to say it's the same universe, even there's not a lot of contradiction. No more than you would find in between any other two Star Trek shows. So,
now, we're specifically referring to the Gorn.
We're just talking about the Gorn here. We're not talking
just
about everything
Gorn.
else on Strange New World.
Yeah, there's many other issues if you try to make that puzzle piece fit together.
Yeah.
Although I would love to see the ribbon of making people break into musicals hit the original series. That would have been great. So
I mean, we've had an episode where Kirk and crew were controlled like puppets. That's how we got the Uhura kiss. You know what I mean? So.
And Professor, you see, and this is one of the problems. Like you say, the biggest contradiction is they encountered way too early. Well, tell that to the people who made Enterprise,
right? Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Again, once
back
it's
to my
once it's introduced in Enterprise, it's pretty much fair game for Strange New Worlds.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because that was 100 years.
And yes, that was the mirror universe, but that's just it. It's a mirror universe, which means that if they're encountered in the mirror universe, they're encountered in the prime universe.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of the mirror universe, is it's a reflection. So, the mirror universe is not an alternate timeline. Anyway, but with that, now I'm being attacked by my little mini Gorn here again. Remember, you are the salt of the earth. I am the salty trekker. Darren, less salty than usual, but we still have our evil Canadian on board here, and for some reason, Danny looks really weird without glasses and less beard. Dude, you need to either wear the glasses or grow the beard. One of the two.